Right.
Here we go. 3,
Thanks, Michael.
2, 1. Hello, everyone, and apologies for the delay there. We are very sorry about a few technical issues. I'm not going to take very long introducing Darren, who's here from Cloud Design Box. Thank you, Darren, for joining us. What we're going to do, we're going to continue with the planned session for this morning. If you've got to leave to go to another session, then please just use the link that you'll be sent to watch this on catch up. But we're going to run the full session and just run over the expected finish time. So Darren is from Cloud Design Box. He's a former teacher of MFL and ICT, a passionate advocate of blended learning, and he's led several large-scale learning platform projects for local authorities and for building schools for the future. So I'm going to hand over to him for this session around planning long-term user adoption in Teams. So thank you, Darren, and thank you everyone for your patience this morning.
Thanks, Michael. So the aim of today's session is to look at how you can not only start adopting MS Teams and SharePoint within Microsoft 365, but also take it forward and continue that user adoption, continue that training, that learning, that usage over time through things like training and centralizing resources. That's me. So the journey is the things that as a school you need to do to bring yourselves forwards and to keep moving forwards as part of your ongoing CPD and user adoption. So number one is communicating your vision to the school. I'll show you what I mean by that shortly, but it's this idea that if you share the aims and share the kind of strategies that you're going to be using and the technologies, of course, then your colleagues and the students will be on board with you as you go along. Part of that is about the people that you involve in the project in the early days. So you need folks from IT, you need curriculum leaders, you need senior leaders in the project, everybody working together to steer the ship in the right direction. And of course, with that comes planning and milestone dates. You need to know what you're going to be achieving at certain points. So for example, let's say if one of your aims is, and every school has different aims, but if one of your aims is to reduce the use of kind of network shares and file shares and move things up into the cloud, then you might say, for example, that within 3 months or 6 months or whatever is suitable for you, that you could make those resources read-only in the file shares, and perhaps after 6 months, 9 months even, those file shares wouldn't be needed anymore. If that's your target, then set a date for that target. Obviously, you've got to keep supporting your staff all along with training. Training isn't just something that happens once, especially in Office 365, because things are changing all the time. There are always new features coming on board with Teams and Class Notebook and SharePoint. So it's a case of coming back at regular intervals and picking up that training again. And of course, to do all this successfully, you've got to keep measuring, not just a one-off measurement of where people are at the start, but come back every kind of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and see where people are, and then that will feed into your training. So I'll show you a quick example of what a demonstration of the new reality might look like, or at least a very small part of it, which is what we're really talking about today, is long-term resources, centralizing your resources. But in your school, that might be a completely different thing. It might be to make video the center of what you do. It might be about resources. It might be about chat. It might be about kind of note taking and Surface devices and things like that. And of course, you've always got to share the benefits with your colleagues, with the students, and really by proxy with their parents as well, so that everybody understands what you're doing and why you're doing it. So the benefits might be things like student autonomy. It might be things like saving teacher time, but those benefits are going to be different for each school, which brings me on to the last point. It's got to fit in with your school ethos. So however your school works, the technology that you use to help with that has to fit that strategy. You've got to have kind of a general school strategy, and technology is just just one of the tools in that tool set that'll help you move forwards. Every school is different, so there really is no one single answer for everybody. So I'll show you very quickly what the centralized resources might look like. So this is a SharePoint site, and within there you have areas for each of your years. Obviously that's going to look different for a primary school and a secondary school and all through, but the idea is you centralize your resources. So from a teacher point of view, rather than every teacher putting their own resources inside their files within their class teams or within the class notebook, you centralize those resources, which means you can share, because sharing is caring. And that means that every individual teacher potentially needs to do a little bit less work, because you're sharing the workload of creating those materials, you're sharing good practice. From a head of department point of view, it means you get to keep an eye on the quality of those resources as well. And from the student point of view, it's really all about autonomy and independent learning, because by putting those resources here, and the students know they're going to be here forever. The resources they used last year are still there. This year's resources are there, and they know that next year's resources are going to be there as well. So the students can, make use of the excellent search in SharePoint to find those resources, perhaps in a way that's more difficult if you're just using Teams. So if you have a look at these resources, we've got our mice and men there. If I hop across to Teams, you can see the relationship now, because this is a class team, as many of you may already have. But you can create tabs that connect to those central resources. So this year 11 area here, as you can see, it has that of mice and men area inside it. And it's exactly the same space. If a teacher creates a document here, it will instantly be over in the SharePoint site, and vice versa. So you've actually got a choice about how you go in if you choose to set it up this way. The other advantage is when you're setting your assignments. At the moment, you may be putting your resources for assignments in the Files tab inside the class materials folder. Absolutely fine. But this is just a kind of more efficient method of that, in that when you come in and you pick up your resources, instead of using OneDrive or instead of going to the actual class that you're in, you can go to that centralized area. And again, you could drill down and choose a particular document. And there now I've actually created an assignment, or I'm creating an assignment where the resource that I add into that assignment comes from that centralized place. So again, there's your economy of scale, there's your sharing teacher resources, there's your saving teacher time as well. So hopping back, these are some of the things that might have come out of that kind of demo. And as I say, what I've shown you there is just something relating to this particular topic of centralizing resources. In your school, the main thing that you want to accentuate might be something completely different, in which case you do a completely different little demo, and then you tease out of that some of the things that are important and the reasons for doing it. So students being able to access materials independently, engagement will go up if students feel in control of their own learning, collaboration with others, and differentiation of materials as well through there. And then there's the technical side, because that was kind of the teaching and learning aspect, which is crucial. But you also need to make sure this all works with the technical stuff that you're doing. So you're going to work with your IT team, and you're going to make sure that the strategy that's in place also does something for them. So in this case, an unlimited amount of accessible, affordable storage. That's a lovely thing. And it also means if you're using these modern technologies, it means you can use modern devices, and that's where you start having your kind of, your inking and your pen devices and things like that. So the team that's involved, that's incredibly important. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Curriculum people, the MIS manager, they potentially are going to be incredibly important, because they set the timetable. They define what the classes are that you're going to have created for you within teams, and they will define the subjects that you might want to have created for your centralized resources as well. And of course, not forgetting the IT support team. you need those on board as well. But it really is a mix of all those people. If you just have the IT support team, then you won't get the buy-in from teachers, and so it will be used less. If you just have curriculum leaders in place or SLT, without the IT support team knowing what's happening and helping to steer, then you might make some wrong turns technically, and that might limit you later on in the things that you want to do. And of course, departmental champions for each of those departments or year groups, depending on what kind of school you are. Have those people that are more confident than your other colleagues, so they can blaze that trail and they can show people, actually, this is quite straightforward. And by the way, your champions, they don't need to be the most technical people. Some cases it's best if that's not the case, because it's very easy to say, oh yeah, but he's always good, he always does these things, she always does these brilliant stuff, you know, I could never do that. If you find somebody that's actually not generally recognized as being savvy and confident with the IT, and you bring them on board as a champion and they can do it, that's a much more compelling argument. So planning, milestone dates, we talked about that, but you have to be flexible because sometimes you have setbacks and things don't work as quickly as you planned. So do be agile in your planning, make allowances, leave a bit of room for slippage, all that kind of thing, and keep talking, get feedback from people as you go along, from colleagues, from students, from parents if appropriate, and feed that back in so that your planning changes constantly. And also, of course, there'll be other stuff coming at you from Microsoft. You think, oh, here's a new feature we didn't have before. How can we weave this in without disrupting the other things we're doing? So keep that agility within what you're doing. So training is incredibly important. These technologies are user-friendly, they're easy to use, but still, you do need to be shown how to do things sometimes, perhaps to make sure you do things the right way. One of the big examples is kind of a use and a misuse of Class Notebook. Class Notebook is brilliant, but you will get problems if you try and kind of fill it with lots and lots of documents, you know, PowerPoints and videos. It gets bloated and it stops working so well. It doesn't sync anymore. So I would say part of the training is learn that lesson of putting your resources in a file place. Files within Teams is fine, but over in a SharePoint site centrally obviously is better. And the other thing I'd say about training is make it hands-on. So when you do training, get the people in the room to actually do the activities. It shouldn't be something that they just kind of watch a video and you say, yeah, we've trained them now, they've watched the video. It has to be hands-on, and you have to have the trainer able to kind of talk to those people during the session, get feedback to make sure it's all going in. One of the questions, do you need to train students? If you're using an external company to do training, that might be difficult, although still possible. It might be better to drip it down through the teachers. So you make sure you've got your champion teachers, and then they kind of do the train the trainer thing on other teachers, and then it's the teachers that hold it down to the students. Generally, the students will find this fairly straightforward. You might find that when they come to look at mobile devices, and because there are differences in mobile devices, that's where you might need to do a little bit of training with the students just to make sure they're using those different apps correctly. So I talked about feedback earlier, very simply. You can use Microsoft Forms to create a survey for the training. So what we tend to do with our training is we do one form ahead of the training. Very, very simple, just gauging kind of confidence that the person has in different things. Then we do the training, and then we do another form afterwards, and we compare the two, and we draw a graph to see if things have moved forward in that space. And obviously, you probably want to then come back to that every couple of months and ask similar questions again, or ask other questions about, you know, what's the next step, just so you always have that feedback about where colleagues are, what difficulties they're having, what things they find exciting, any new things they've discovered that they want to share with other people, and then you feed that back into your training system. which is what that diagram shows. So you adjust your strategy based on the things that you measure, and then that goes into your staff training. Just a word about us and some of the resources you can get from us. So if you go to our website, clouddesignbox.co.uk/resources, you can see some nice video materials we've made. The podcasts are really just us talking to senior leaders, IT technicians, teachers. So this is me talking about SEN on this first one. That's a chat about a lovely lady called Elaine about becoming an MIE expert. General user adoption of Teams. Senior leadership, this is me talking to Gareth, who's an assistant head teacher, about the way that they've used Teams to support their internal discussions as senior leaders. And then you can go down to our training areas. One big course for education for SharePoint and one big course for Teams. These cover a lot of ground. You'll probably want to watch them a couple of times before it all goes in. There we are. Luke, I don't know if we have any questions in there today.
We do. We have a few here. We have one which is, what is the best way to get parental engagement using Teams and SharePoint?
Parental engagement. Okay, so the trouble you've got with Office 365 is there is no parent login as such. I think that's actually a good thing, because as a parent, the last thing I need is another login to another system that on my phone's going to go beep, beep, beep all the time. But what you can do is you can set up something called the Guardian Email Digest or the Parent Email Digest. And what this basically is that as assignments are set to children in classes, on a Sunday morning, parents will receive a single email that covers all their children, and it talks about all the assignments that have been set for those children in the last school week, and it shows the assignments that their children have handed in that period as well. It doesn't go into detail, it doesn't show marks and comments and things like that, but it's quite good just to show to parents that work is being set. If you're in a secondary context, then obviously parents are going to be looking at that and saying, okay, well, I see English have set a lot of work, but are maths doing it? What about science? So you want to make sure you've got that balance in place, that if you are sending these emails out to parents, I would suggest just before you switch that on, you make sure you've got some parity between all the different subjects, so that there aren't any subjects that are visibly falling behind. But that's a really good way of doing it for the moment. I know that some people worldwide, some schools have done things like inviting parents in as guests to the class teams. I can't say that I think that's a great idea, but if it works, then it works. You've just got to be super careful at who's got access, who's got that content.
So I have another question from Leslie here, who says, I am the head of a small primary school with limited tech capacity and all staff with full-time teaching commitments. Can you tell me what training is available, where we can access this? Is there a cost involved, etc.?
Okay. So there are lots of, first of all, there are lots of free training materials. If you go to the website I showed you earlier, clouddesignbox.co.uk, we put free resources on there. Also, Leslie, if you just go to our YouTube channel, Cloud Design Box on YouTube, we put all our training materials up there. So we do training. We're Microsoft Global Training Partners. We're CPD certified. And we do training on premises. Previously, we used to come on premises and do training with teachers. And actually, since the lockdown, we've been doing that remotely. And it's working really, really well. It gives us quite a lot, excuse me, gives us quite a lot of flexibility about the way that we can do training. Now, normally what we do when we go into a school and we do that training is we leave behind videos for them on their platform. So it looks a little bit like this. So if I go to the teacher site here, and scroll down, you can see you've got all these videos. So these are videos about using SharePoint. These are videos about using Teams, everything you need to know. Setting up your class notebook, assignments, immersive reader, quizzes, it's all there, plus those user adoption podcasts. Now, these are also all on YouTube for free. So literally, if you wanted to know about assignments, Leslie, you could literally type Cloud Design Box assignments or Cloud Design Box class notebook assignments or Cloud Design Box SEN, and you would find those videos for free. So you don't need to buy our product to get these. They're just freely available on the internet. And there are other great resources out there as well. The Microsoft resources are good. If you look up the Microsoft Innovative Educator, the Education Center for Microsoft, that's got some really good courses about Teams and Class Notebook and Minecraft as well, and all other great things. So I would certainly have a look at those. And of course, there are other folks doing it as well. Worldwide now, there are lots of teachers creating their own videos and chucking them out there. And some of those are very good, others less so. But, you know, have a look and see what's out there. In terms of costs for training, there are quite a few companies that do it. I don't really want this to be an advert session, but if it's okay, Leslie, we'll get in touch with you afterwards and give you a couple of choices. Awesome. Thanks, Luke. You got any more?
No, I think that's everything for now. Thank you so much, Darren. You've been amazing.
Lovely. Thank you very much, guys. Again, sorry for starting a bit late today, but we got there in the end. Lovely. Thanks, Luke. I'll catch up with you later.
Thank you.